FlatsClass YouTube fans, Captain CA here, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, it's Christmas time. The wife has been decorating the entire property, and the only thing I really am allowed to decorate is the shop. So, well, and my bar and my shop. That's where she draws the line. Anyhow, we had an incredible day of fishing the other day. I was out with longtime friend and client Joe Nelms, and you've seen Joe here on the channel several times. He comes over from Jacksonville, and we had one of those lights out days. It was after a front such as we have right now, and it was crisp and cold, and we had a big northeast wind, and it dropped the water in some of the backcountry. So we were fishing the backs of these creeks and these little sloughs, and we caught. I'm going to say we cannot show you everything we caught, but we probably caught somewhere between 3 and 4 dozen fish, and it was basically on 2 baits, but I kept changing things up. But we're going to talk about that inside. But first, I'll send you to the action right here on Florida's Nature Coast, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the bait change we made in the middle of the day. So what are you waiting for? Jump on board and catch some of this. I'm going to go in here and finish, decorating. There you go. Oh, I got one too. Another trout. 2 trout. Wow. On plugs. Can you believe that? That's just slow rolling, crazy. Crazy. You just got to know how to present.
I'm doing about the same thing you are.
Yeah, you know how to present, you can catch them. I mean, he got both of those. That's a heavy Dean that I'm basically fishing like a spy bait.
You must have caught them all, huh? They're gone.
We watched the other boats leave. They weren't catching them. I can tell you, if you're going to catch them, you got to work it really slow.
Catch them, you got to clean them.
We're putting them back in the water so you guys can keep catching them. On a day when you got this cold of water, you just wouldn't think you'd catch fish this regularly. And we've been in a down water trend here.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only sitting in what, 3 foot of water? Tops?
3 foot of water. 3 foot of water. 59 degrees now.
Oh, he's on.
Awesome, man. I mean, painfully slow working it. Look at you go. You have got them figured out with that plug.
This is the one today.
There's no doubt. There is no doubt that plug is railing them. They catch Junior. Yeah. Again, same type of deal. I bet he's hooked exactly the same way. This one shook free a little bit. That plug has been, that's the 21 color. Catch Junior is one of those baits that a lot of guys have in their tackle store, and people don't even consider it. They get so locked into the Mirrolure. But as far as catching trout, man, Catch Junior is money.
And you don't have to run 20 minutes.
No, you do not. I mean, we're literally like right outside the boat ramp. This is definitely a community hole, you can tell because of all the boats here, but we're the only ones that are consistently stroking them. And water temperature still hasn't come up a whole lot, you know, 59.7. It was like 58.9, and then it's crawled up not even a degree. It just, you know, it's just whatever it is. And we're in 3 feet of water, throwing in about 4. Barely kicking it, letting it settle on the bottom, barely kicking it off, almost jigging the bait. Almost jigging it. These guys are gonna have to get away from us just to feel good about themselves. Like, I can't believe those guys are throwing hard baits down there.
Back on him.
I know. Can't believe these guys are throwing hard baits.
Almost looks like we're in some sweet water.
And these fish, they really moved a long way, because I was catching a lot of trout a week or so. Oh, well, right around Thanksgiving, we were catching the fire out of them, and we were catching them basically down in the mouths of these creeks, and here we're in the very backs of them catching them. That one's not the biggest specimen so far, but, and I'm using, this is actually this is 20-pound diamond braid, light blue, and I'm throwing it once again on the 7-foot. This is 1/8 to 1/2 ounce, and it's an 8 to 15-pound rod, so it's a medium mod fast. And I've got a good 4 foot of 30-pound fluorocarbon leader on here, and I've been using both the heavy Dean and this is more of a custom color here. This is an MR17. I'm just fishing a little slower since I went heavier on the leader. It just kind of rocks down, gets down there on the bottom, I bounce it off, and then it just kind of rocks down again. And every time I let it bounce off the bottom and I just let it kind of go in the tide and rock down again, on that fall is when they thump it. Now, let's repeat. Rinse and repeat. That one goes back in. Let's get this big one off. Yeah, this one's off. This one here. And he's barely hooked too. He's barely hooked.
That's part of not setting that damn hook.
That's the real set.
If you try to set the hook right now, you're gonna just rip that lip wide open.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Water temp went up 1 degree. It's up to 60 now.
Ooh.
That is a nice trout. And sometimes, you know, fishing a community hole like this is not a bad thing. I mean, the fish are where they are. You can't control, you know, where the fish go. And this one pushed it through. I just got to get this one barb.
Might be 19 or 20.
Yeah, this one here is by far the best one. It's all a 19. All a 19. We got to get that out. That is a nice fish. Whoa, 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 whoa. He wants to go back, and we want to put him back. But good fish right there. Back he goes. Slow roll. The rod is really important in this style of fishing. And honestly, the rod that I'm using, this casting rod, it is one of the most affordable rods. It's the Versa series from Fitzgerald.
So I've got one rod that's similar to this.
That's the Aquafin there.
But I do like that hard spine.
Yeah.
So if you just offset your thumb down on the blank,
yeah, you can feel it.
Get that feel.
Yeah. Yep, you get all the feel, and if you do get something bigger in here, you will be able to do some damage with him. I have noticed that your fish are larger than mine today too.
Well, you're using the peanut.
They have been larger. I went to a color. I mean, you made me switch to this color, which is not exactly the 21. This is kind of like a cracker color that we use here a lot, with a chartreuse belly, red chin, black back. And this is a custom color we sell on the Captain C.A. Richardson website. But See a guy down there, he just loaded one up. But it's the closest thing I had in the BUZBE box that would do anything. Oh yeah, he's got one. He had the hot hand with that Catch Junior. And like I said, we're fishing these just like the bass guys fish spy baits, where we're doing a lot of reeling, not a whole lot of twitching. It's just you're throwing down into the groove, and I wait for it to get all the way down, and then I'm just barely rolling it out of the water.
I've never seen a trout jump out of the water.
He came out of the water. That one's going to be a little bit bigger. Get this one in. Yeah, that was a lot heavier fish. Well, I mean, as many as I've caught on the MR18 and the MR17, you've caught that many more on this Catch Junior.
Yeah, this thing's killing it.
It's killing it. It's definitely killing it. This one here, definitely a girthier fish, much heavier, really healthy.
I've never seen one of them
jump out like that
before.
You start getting into those big fish, 20 inches and better, and they will do that. I know you fish a lot of creeks up in Jacksonville, but here on fishing these flats, although we are fishing a creek here, that's a respectable little fish there.
Nice fish. Pretty fish.
People love catching these guys, these little mustard mouth trout. We're killing those old fellas down there. They're just seeing us release one after another. It's all about the conservation. We want the resource here for everybody.
And they want dinner tonight.
Yeah, and they want dinner tonight. Most of these fish have been in the slot.
Yeah, they really have been.
They have been. Tell you what,
Top on these bottles.
you are making me switch over to a Catch Junior, because you're whacking them with that. I mean whacking them. I mean, I'll bet you've caught half a dozen or more now. He's on. I watched you feed him, Joe.
That's what you had to do.
I watched you feed him.
He was way too passive.
Watched you feed him. That's unbelievable. Now you're up in the double digits probably by now.
Sure getting close to it.
Yeah. Fun to catch them on hard baits, huh?
Sometimes the student is the master.
Might have moved our fish around a little bit. Yeah, I just like to. And with these small number 4 trebs, you need a rod that is, what I'm going to say, forgiving. This is a medium mod fast action, and it's perfect. I can feel that line going over my index finger, and I'm on the bottom. I can feel the bottom with this heavy Dean. It's one of my favorite ways to fish, is just kind of roll it just like this. It works so good this time of year. Looks like a little butterfish down there, or little pinfish, mud minnow. And Joe's definitely got the mullet profile covered with the Catch Junior, which a lot of the smaller mullet back here are exactly that size. And I'll stop it every once in a while. I'll reel for a few yards, and then I'll just stop it, make sure I'm making contact with the bottom, and then come right back. No. This is, but when the fish are in here, they're better off. Oh, look at you go. Look at you go. You know that's a slippery drag when you got it set like that. It's perfect. They can't get off. The mouth of a trout is like paper. So it's really important to have a rod that is forgiving. And again, a little redfish this time. I told you we'd catch a couple of those. Nice, nicely done. But they're all the fish really want to be in the creek as cold as it is. So they really have to be in here. Hate to keep showing you guys their white bellies, but they seem a lot calmer when I let them go this way. And these aren't giant fish. I think the biggest one we've caught thus far is probably about 16 and a half, 17, but on a day like today, when you were wondering if you were going to catch any fish, we're still able to catch some. Hey, let me set the scene a little bit for you guys. We took off a lot later this morning than I typically do on most charter days, but it was very cold. Yesterday was very cold. Water temps, when we looked at them online, were around 57 degrees. We got out here, found out they were closer to 58, 59 degrees. So we started about 9:30 and wanted to fish the last of the outgoing and some of the incoming tide today. And the sky turned out a lot brighter than what the forecast was. Forecast said it was going to be really cloudy. So with the high pressure set in and the chilly water, I don't think the fish are going to move up that shallow today. Now tomorrow, I think they will, but today, I think they're going to stay in these deeper spots just because of how cold the water is. And we are definitely throwing lures that expand that strike zone. So instead of throwing a drab colored, monocolored jig that you've almost got to place it right in front of them for them to react, we're throwing these plugs, both this MR17 and 18, which is the Mirrolure and the heavy Dean, and we're also throwing, Joe's putting on a clinic with our Catch Junior in that 21 size, that 21 color, and that color, honestly, I think that's an MR22 bait. So if you want to look it up, it's the MR22 from Mirrolure, but it's in the number 21 color, which is a black back, silver sides, and a white belly. And evidently they are tuned into that today, and he's just letting it sink. That bait works in about a foot of water. We're fishing about 3 feet of water. He's making long casts, letting it get down, and he's real short, sharp twitches and letting it just kind of hover. Short, sharp twitches, letting it hover, and they're wrecking it. All right, let me see if I can't talk one into hitting mine now. Out here.
I loved your video on the tournament with Jess.
Oh, it was good.
I mean, I really thought, the way you were talking through the course of it, I was like, that little bastard's winning this thing. He's winning.
We were close. We were close. The one guy that won it, they were on so many fish, we couldn't beat them. The most we could hope for was second in that event.
Yeah, they're probably
and we
shoving live bait.
Well, they were, but we lost. I mean, we missed out on second to the Zachary brothers, who are local guides here, and those guys are really good. They win a lot of tournaments. They fish even on their days off, so got a lot of respect for those two, Zach and Memphis. And those guys they fish hard, and they know the Crystal River zone better than most. Oh, look at you go! That's what we're doing. You are just whacking them today. This is going to be one of those days where we catch 40, 50 trout.
It's going to be a big trout day.
It's going to be a big trout day. A couple of reds mixed in maybe, but it's fun doing this, especially on hard baits. Another good fish. Yeah, a lot of anglers don't have a lot of success. Florida anglers are so tuned into just utilizing soft baits all the time, and they have no idea this time of year hard baits is huge advantage. We're the only ones out here just rolling them. Oh yeah, good fish. Ooh,
nice. I like just passing them back to you.
Yeah, you like that? Well, you've kept me busy. I hardly want to stand up. I feel like I'm wasting energy standing up because you're going to have another one here in 2 seconds.
I know. I need to put my pliers on.
That's fine. Another nice, you know, these are all in that 16 to 17 and a half inch class, most of them. I mean, I think we've had one that was about 19 thus far, but I mean, these are all solid, I mean, slot fish. Good Lord.
Look at you.
I mean, you know, when you roll that line, oh, look at you. When you roll it over your index finger like this, you know, you feel that tap, that little subtle tap, and you can come tight on these fish quick.
I will say, for me, you've got me with the right rod today.
Oh, I know I do.
Because I need this feel. So where you're using the line, I'm using the blank.
Yeah. Man. Morning. Look at this. I mean, you are steady Eddie. You don't
this
make...
is a better fish.
Yeah, you don't make a cast without catching one. You really don't.
You just get in that groove. This is a pretty good fish.
Yeah, that one's throwing a boil out there. It's throwing a little bit more water. Oh yeah, it's a trout though. I thought for a momento you may have hooked a bigger redfish that
that's what I thought.
Sunning up on the edge.
Initially, that's exactly what I thought.
But it looks as if you caught.
But this is a nice trout.
I know that you.
I mean, combined, we're definitely over 20.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm right at 10 or 11, and you've got to be around 20, so I'm going to say we're at 30. Look at this here. Crazy. All right, let me get him freed up.
Patience, my friend.
Patience.
All it is patience.
Okay, let's talk about, yeah, I know. This is as far as I go with decorating, guys, promise you. Let's talk a little bit about the lures that we were using in the morning when the water was absolutely the chilliest. Now, I know I covered it in the boat, and we talked about water temperatures starting off close to like 58, 59 degrees. It did eventually, with a little bit of time, warm up enough to get the water temps on the outgoing tide, later in the outgoing tide, to get all the way up to about 62 and a half, 63 degrees. Still cold, and compared to the week before, much colder. I'm talking like 10 degrees colder. So that's usually a recipe for failure. But when you're targeting trout, it's actually a good thing. That colder water, those lower tides, those bluer skies, press them down and put them into those deeper sloughs along a lot of creeks. And if you can find those little holes that have 4, 5, and 6 feet of water, or greater, in some cases, it's all relative, or any place that is protected by wind, has more of a muddy bottom, lots of times you can score a lot. Now, I was getting worn out by Joe with this bait here. This is the MR22. This is the Catch Junior. And this particular bait mimics finger mullet fantastic. This is the 21 color, like I said, black, silver sides. It's got the little white belly there. But it falls at about 10 or 12 inches of water. So you're working it in those shallower depths. But I was telling them, be patient, don't reel too fast. Give it 2 or 3 kicks, but don't reel while you're doing it. Let it fall and rock a little bit more. If you do that, it'll give off just enough, I'm going to say, reflection or glint in the water that it may pull a fish that normally wouldn't swim over there and hit it to get them to actually do it. Whereas if you're just throwing a soft bait, like an opaque color like pumpkin or root beer or something like that, you might have to be a lot closer to them to catch them. So sometimes you overlook the fact that hard baits can be much more effective this time of year than soft baits can. And then I was utilizing this, which is a MR. This is the 18. This is the heavy Dean. Now the heavy Dean sinks much faster. So I was throwing it up in the tide and I was letting it rock down and almost working it like a jig off the bottom. Throw it in the tide, let it rock down, pull it back up, let it kind of shimmy again. And I caught my share of the specks at first. But with Joe on the bow, being a good caster and being able to reach out a little further than me, he did get the best of me for sure. And at, you know, having a little fun at my expense, really getting me, you know, 3-1 there for a spell. Now, after that bite started to wane, they always do, because we were fishing a salooner period when we first got there around 9:30 to about 11 o'clock. There was going to be another window of time later in the day, closer to 3 o'clock, when that was going to kind of happen again. So we bumped around a little bit, did okay, caught a lot of smaller fish, nothing big. And then we moved down the creek about halfway and started fishing some deeper holes that had a lot of rock. And they had these little draws that were draining the flat, and we were fishing in front of them. We switched because there was a lot of kelpie grass in there and these treble hooks were getting hung up in there. We switched over to this, which is you've seen us use this before this time of year. It's a finesse TRD. It's basically like a miniaturized Cinco. But we did a little trick into it. We hacked it a little bit. We put a 1/10 of an ounce mushroom jig head on there. This is the finesse shroom. It's a real thin wire. And then we put this little TRD spinners, and I'll show it to you. We use a lot of this stuff quite often now as underspins and things like that on a variety of baits. But this little rig here did a fantastic job. Caught a number of redfish on it. And I knew that they had to be there. They couldn't be on the flat. We could see all the grass exposed, all the crab pots exposed. And those, because of my history in this area, are generally tailing flat. So I knew the reds had to be in there. Now, because the bait was smaller, we caught a lot of little ones. But we did catch a couple of medium-sized reds. And then, surprisingly so, we caught, well, I'm not going to spoil it. You go back to the action, and we'll come back here because I want to show you another way to rig this in a bigger version that is just kind of a bonus tip. So go back to the action right now, back into the creek, and I'll be back here in a few minutes. That's awesome. Pulling hard, not like a trout though.
No, it feels like a red.
Pulling like a redfish.
Little red. Yeah, I knew something was going on over there.
Dipping and diving. Oh, that's a decent red.
Nice little red.
Yeah. Wait till you see what he caught. You're never gonna believe it. A little bit of line.
Look at the size of that big spot. Big spot on that little fish.
Look at this. Caught him on that. TRD spins on a finesse TRD with a little mushroom head. Caught that guy. Crazy. That's a decent fish there, my friend. On a mini today. Last winter it kicked butt too, and I wanted.
I mean, they're tiny, but
It got warm so fast last winter, but I knew that bait would catch so many fish.
there's got to be a million of these sitting up there.
Whack. Drag. That little TRD spins, a little move on these type of skies really catches a lot of fish. Oh, that's a much nicer red. Good redfish. Chicken butt.
Well, I finally found that redfish spot.
Oh yeah. I thought we were going to only catch trout today. Nicely done. Don't cover them up there.
I'm just
Readjust. God, dog, that's a nice trout. I mean, that is a nice one.
Come here, buddy. Here, what are we gonna do with you?
Head to me a little bit. There you go. That is a good one there, boy. Nice. Whew. That is a good one. A great way to basically wind down the day. Fishing down the creek there and just scoring, you know, redfish after redfish. We probably ended up with 8 or 9 of the redfish. And actually, we're not going to show you every one of them because a lot of them were shorts. And then there at the end, we caught the one big trout that was pushing 22 inches. Just an incredible fish. And you'd never think a small little Ned rig like this with a tail spinner. But the way we work this is we throw it up in the tide, and it just, the drag of that spinner kind of makes us fall so slow with that spinning tail down to the bottom. And then you just lift it up like that, and it'll just bounce right back up. And then it just falls so slow again with that tail spinner, creating a little bit of drag. And on that fall is when they whack it. I mean, really whack it. The trick is because the finesse shrooms wire here on the hook is so light, you have to really play the fish out. And that's why in the boat I was talking about some of those Fitzgerald rods we were using are very much moderate fast actions that have a lot of give, which are perfect for, you know, treble hooks, smaller treble hooks, and for lighter wire hooks like this. Now, I told you I was going to throw a bonus one at you. This little idea with the finesse TRD and the spins is something that the TRD spins is something that we do a lot when we're swimming potholes on some of the flats we're drifting. We'll make casts, and we use these. These are the Pro Bullets. Let me put this out there where you can see it. You can see that Pro Bullets head. It's a Texas rig style. And when we get a lot of wind and we're drifting real fast, but we don't want to get hung up, sometimes we'll swing back up into the wind and let this kind of pull along. And that little willow blade TRDs kind of just gives this thing a slow fall, and it falls over these checkered bottoms and over the potholes when we're fishing that kelpie or that eelgrass. And it is amazing how many big trout just, I mean, they suck this thing down like, I don't know, it's like a spaghetti factory. It really is. They love this bait. It was really good to me last fall and winter. And on the fronts, if you're not afraid to be out there when it's blowing a little spitty rain and stuff like that, and you want to throw something, this is the big TRD, the big brother or big sister, if you will, to the finesse TRD. And we're just head weighting it with something a little bit bigger, something a little more weedless. And because there's more Elastec plastic in this, it has a slower fall or descent rate at times. And we can just kind of pull it along in that tide and that wind swept. And lots of times when you're throwing this stuff on spinning gear, you know, your braid kind of floats up high, and it creates a little bit of drag, and that little willow blade spinner spinning back there, you'd be surprised on those dark, windy days when there's not a lot of light. You get a lot of action on something like this. So that's a little bonus tip. If these tips that we share with you and these on-water experiences are helping you catch more fish, well, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Give us that thumbs up. Comment, share this information with your friends, because It's my job to put you in our virtual classroom, whether it's here in the studio, out there in the skiffs, out there in the field, each and every week. And we shoot multiple videos every week. So we want to become your inshore authority on how to get things done and how to be successful in your neck of the woods or your body of water. That's all I've got for you in this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you do, come back and see us again. Now, until next time, Captain CA wishing you a happy holiday season.